Hello, everybody. I'm Brian Bowie, and welcome to another edition of Society AMAs. Super excited to welcome our guest today. We have Darrell Alfonso, Global Marketing Operations Manager at AWS. Darrell, welcome to the show.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for having me. So happy to be here.
Yeah. Before we dive into the questions, you are kind of like the marketing ops guru. I see you everywhere. And I'm really interested to hear about your background and kind of how you fell into marketing ops. I know there's so many different paths you could take within marketing. How did you kind of land in marketing operations?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, when I was right out of college, I wanted to get a high-paying marketing job, just like anybody else. And, and I found out that, doing the typical marketing functions like creative or design or like social media, it was super competitive to get those kinds of jobs. Like everybody wanted that kind of work. And I stumbled across marketing automation, which is, a subset of marketing operations.
Right.
And I found that nobody knew how to do it. And companies were desperate for this type of talent. And so I got skilled up, and Marketo is my platform of choice. So I became a Marketo enthusiast. And I found really quickly that you could become a critical part of the marketing team, like a cornerstone part of the marketing team, without too much experience, as long as you knew how to use these platforms and bring them up to potential. So that's what I did, and kind of never looked back. After that, I started leading marketing operations at a couple of different companies. The company that I was at prior to coming to Amazon, I actually did a hybrid of marketing operations, plus I led marketing for the Americas. So very much of a hybrid. And I'm a big fan of networking and personal branding.
Yeah.
So I would often write articles, do videos, and I won some industry awards, and that's how I came into contact with some marketing operations people that worked at Amazon. And the rest is history. I moved to Seattle after that, and joined a really big team. So
that's awesome. That story, I feel like is similar to like my story, or a lot of people falling into digital marketing, with SEO or PPC. It was kind of like, oh, no one knows how to do this, and there's demand for it. And very quickly you could learn these subset of technical skills within Google Ads or SEO, and follow these best practices and be impactful or useful for an organization. So marketing ops is definitely one of those where, for those out there, he mentioned high-paying job. If you're looking for something like that, marketing ops might be the way to go. Before I jump into the questions, any people, for those listening out there that might be more interested in getting into marketing operations from hearing your experience and success with it, do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, and then just to your former point, I think marketing operations, along with revenue operations, is one of the fastest and hottest growing professions. It's super in demand. I get DMs in my inbox I just got one yesterday with high-paying job offers that are kind of going unfilled because the talent, the supply is a lot less than demand at the moment. So if you're in marketing operations, you actually have your choice of where you can work, where you want to work. Most allow remote work, especially now. And then the salaries are, they're quite high. I mean, entry level, you probably won't get six figures, but few years of experience and with the right company, you definitely will get a high paying job right away. So I think that if you're looking to break into it, there's a couple of ways to do it. One is you kind of could get lucky by just doing self-study and then applying. There's no harm in that. Like, let's say you want to get certified in like a HubSpot or Pardot or Marketo, and then apply at an in-house brand. You can do that. One of my favorite recommendations is to join an agency, just because they skill you up really, really quickly, and you get to see a lot of different, how from a practitioner's point of view and a consultant's point of view, how do you apply marketing operations and manage marketing operations at different companies?
Right.
And they'll train you. So
Yeah.
a couple years at an agency, and you'll probably have more experience than people working in-house. So that's another route that you could go.
All great tips. Yeah, for those out there listening, hope you take that to heart. And sweet, really excited to dive into the questions that the society members have. And the first one's actually from our society community manager. We have Max Serrato. He's kind of our in-house marketing operations manager at a Directive. So say you did all the work, you got your job. It's your first day on the job at a new company as a marketing ops kind of expert. What's the first thing you look for or do within the CRM or marketing automation platform to start moving the needle? So I know it depends, but yeah, what would you do if you were new to an organization?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll try to answer this from, kind of like a high level frame of way of thinking, and then maybe some tactical stuff.
Yeah.
The first thing is, I think you want to figure out the big sort of goals or actual like jobs to be done that you want to do. So let's say you want to send, a nurture program to leads of a specific status or in a specific geography, right? Or assigned to a specific territory, right? In order to do that, you need to have CRM sync with all the fields coming through. And then you have to have your, your email system set up, deliverability, a warmed up IP address, all that kind of stuff is necessary. And then plus you'll need templates. So just by picking out that one specific jobs to be done, you can kind of come up with a list already of stuff that you need to do. So I would look at that. And then the other thing that I think where you can make a lot of, like, I see it says move the needle, is you want to try to get leads from one stage to the other. And let's say, typical framework is MKL to MAL to MQL to SAL to SQL. So you've got this lead life cycle set up, and you want to try to identify where you can get the most bang for your buck by moving one from one stage to the next.
Right.
That's typically from MAL to MQL, but you can kind of figure out where you want to go throughout that, and then to deploy campaigns and tactics to try to move them from one to the other and kind of run experiments that way. I think that's my favorite things to kind of work on. The other thing is to figure out, you mostly if you come in, especially if you're a consultant, and I've done like moonlighting on the side and stuff, you'll often find a leaky funnel, or in other words, you'll find leads that are just hanging out, right?
Yeah.
They either came from an event, or they came from PPC ads, or they came in, but since they weren't passed on to sales, and since sales doesn't know about them, they're just sitting there. So it's wasted dollars. So if you can run some sort of campaign, whether it's a sales play or email typically, you can usually generate some quick wins really fast if you target a leaky funnel or leads that are sort of left behind, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I love that approach. One, like, I feel like you covered all bases in terms of making sure you had the plumbing right with the technical foundation, and then also the creative side of like converting people from life cycle stage to the next, and then a very quick low-hanging fruit of attacking all those like dead leads, all things that I need to go back and talk to Max about. So thanks for all those tips. It's good to kind of refresh that within a new approach. So awesome. The next question we have comes from Spencer Pearson, and it's a two-parter to start with, and it's around MarTech. So I know you're a MarTech enthusiast. Blockchain and AI technologies are becoming more powerful every day. And the marketing space seems to have figured out a few basic applications, mostly within, I think, marketing tools and software tools. But the biggest innovations seem like they haven't happened yet. So the next question he has to follow up to that is, what do you think their role will be in this industry over the next 5 to 10 years? So blockchain and AI technology, what do you think their role will be within kind of marketing technology?
Yeah. So, I'll be honest, I don't know too much about blockchain's application, but I can speak a lot on AI. And I think so the critical things that we see in AI right now are predictive analytics, and sort of finding lookalike um, lookalike audiences for your customers.
Yeah.
And also, you've got personalization, which is like websites. It's big in e-commerce, with
Right.
merchandising, and then personalizing all sorts of communication. One thing that we do, for example, is we leverage a technology to build emails on the fly, which is really cool. Bringing in different modules depending on who the customer is. So I think AI has a lot of personalization application. And then, finally you have just sort of interactive sort of mechanisms like chatbots and, other things, cool website online digital experiences. So I think that that's where we are at today. And it's very true. A lot of it's still emerging. It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
Whether it's AI/machine learning, or it's just someone that is looking at the data and then making recommendations and plugging it in. So I think that's pretty difficult to kind of discern at the moment. I think that what we'll see happening over the next 5 to 10 years is looking at AI and machine learning and how it will improve overall marketing performance. And a great example of that is rather than seeing, hey, what customers do we want to target for this campaign?
Yeah.
And kind of changing your marketing strategy based on that. I think what's going to be interesting to see is sending out a number of campaigns, a number of treatments, a number of messages, and then based on the customer's interaction, their both on and offline, having them receive the right one. I think that is going to be a big difference maker, and it's something that we actually think about every day, versus, it's kind of like, the easiest example is, both Amazon retail, which I'm actually far from. I work at Amazon Web Services, which is completely different. So Amazon retail and like Netflix, right? So you see, not only when you visit the site, and then when you in your inbox, you see very, very personalized recommendations, like it's just for you. You know what I mean? But those campaigns are going out all the time, and then they're dynamically changing based on you. So I think that's the direction that, especially in B2B, of where we're headed, is having that personal experience just for the customer, and then having AI construct that along the way. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Helping the insights come to light. I know with like propensity to buy, lead scoring, and stuff like that, more companies are starting to adopt that, letting some like the machine learning get better at choosing who you focus on and all of that stuff. So that's a great question. We have another follow-up from Spencer. What are the top skills marketers should focus on to better leverage these emerging technologies? Because they're doing, I guess some of the technologies are doing a little bit of the analysis for them. What top skills do you think they can focus on to better leverage these emerging technologies?
Yeah, so this is interesting, and I can speak to this from personal experience, because you're not actually building the technology that does this, right? Like as marketers, right? We're not developers, or most of us aren't. Yeah. So we're actually leveraging the expertise of either talent or other platforms to get the best possible result. So I think there's a couple of different ways. One is to just really be informed. I think by doing your research, staying close to the news that's coming out of MarTech and about the new platforms that are coming out and available, and seeing what you what you could leverage. Another one is getting really good at understanding statistics and experimentation. I think a lot of marketers today, me included, like actually until I came to Amazon, I didn't really have down, what a real good A/B test or sort of experiment looked like. I think most marketers will say, well, we're just going to split the audience 50-50 and then just see, what's better, what subject line's better, what ad works better.
Yeah.
But there's no closed feedback loop to that. You know what I mean? You're saying, okay, well, this, subject line A worked better than subject line B. But that's just sort of very, sort of stagnant. That's like at one point in time. You actually don't know overall.
Right.
One of the best experimentation methods that I found works really well is to actually create holdout groups. And holdout groups are groups of customers or prospects that don't get any marketing whatsoever, especially in the channel that you're testing. So you can really see the difference between what you're doing and how that's influencing their sort of buyer's journey versus someone that gets nothing at all. And that I think it helps you make much more better decisions, and the insights are much more valuable because the splitting the typical A/B testing of 50-50, it's not super helpful. And then what's often common too is it's not statistically significant.
Yeah.
One last thing I'll mention about experiments is that you should always have a confidence level, right? Which is pretty easy to look up if you just Google like how to figure out if it's, if you're 95% confident, if you're 80% confident in these test results.
Yeah.
But you'll often find that if you're running a test on like 1,000 people, you're not going to get a great confidence level, meaning that the test, you're not sure that it wasn't just because of random events or chance that your result came out the way it is. And I know that that's kind of a lot, but it's really just do a YouTube search on, statistical significance and how to do confidence levels for your experiments. And it'll kind of like open your eyes in terms of how to really kind of get some results from these things.
That is super insightful, because I feel like myself, I'm guilty of doing a lot of A/B split tests and just choosing a winner and thinking that's going to help me out if I keep testing and iterating upon said winner, but there's so many other variables I'm not thinking about. So for those of that out there that want to look up more in terms of experimentation frameworks and holdout groups and things like that, where have you found like good resources around that besides the YouTube stuff with like statistical significance and all that?
So, when I was going through sort of doing my research, it was almost like a refresher of statistics. So, I had taken both statistics in high school and in college. So I kind of, we were kind of like, it's kind of like refreshing. You're like, oh yeah, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to calculate this p-value thing. So I would say if you have like as we were talking, and if you're in the audience and you have no idea what we're talking about, I would actually take a class in statistics. And it could just be, I think there's really inexpensive ones on Coursera or LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, just to get some baseline statistic knowledge. That's going to help you. If you're a marketer, that's going to help you for the rest of your career. So that's how I would go about it.
That makes sense. Awesome. Sweet. Jump into our next society member. We got Marie France Gosselin. I hope I said that right. So this is another two-parter. Innovation in marketing is always connected to the creative side. I think that can be argued, but the operation machine behind campaigns is huge and doesn't work like a regular ops department. So based on that, what are your top arguments for people to understand the distinction between the creative side of marketing and marketing operations, which I think Marie thinks is more on the technical side?
Yeah. I think My first thought about that is that there's actually a lot of creativity, and I'm sure you can attest to this, that happens within marketing operations and then also within like performance marketing in general. And it's just a different form of creativity, like creative thinking, innovation, and sort of coming up with new solutions to problems. I think is extremely creative.
Yeah.
There's a book that I'm reading now called, Design Thinking. It's either like Design Your Life or Design Thinking. I'll have to look it up. And I think it like hits it on the head, where it's like, it takes a really creative person or like a lot of creative power to sort of design the way that you work and the systems in which you do so with, in a way that will generate the results or the outcomes that you want. So I think that there's actually a lot of creativity, and I actually don't, I won't speak too much on this, but I actually think people can do both. And I think that you can come up with great creative ad ideas, and I think you can come up with great technological implementations to get it done. So I think that's like sort of my overall thoughts on that. I think though that going through the practice of creating something like advertisement or a brand, like sort of a brand scheme or like look and feel, I think the muscles are just different. And if you go through that with, and I think that how I kind of think about approaching any kind of project is sort of like a list of questions. And then for marketing operations, I think you have a specific set of questions around scale, efficiency, repeatability. And then on the creative side, it's a different set of questions around psychology, around, creating compelling copy, and around trying to instill a sort of emotional and rational reaction to things. So I think the set of questions are just different. And I think they can blend. I mean, I remember you telling me that you did a little bit of both, right? You're doing, you're both managing creative, and then you're also doing operations, right? So it's almost like you're switching your hats, if you will. You know what I mean? I mean, that's kind of how you approach it too, right?
Definitely understanding the parts of marketing operations and the different questions to be asked and all the things that married to everything working all together, I think gives you a better understanding of how you can be creative within those set of questions that you're trying to solve for. So definitely, I see both with being creative within the bounds of whatever you're trying to get done. So kind of high level, but I definitely see where you can be creative in each and in something as like technical or specific as marketing operations.
Yeah. And I think that, one of the things that I do really often is I create content for mostly LinkedIn, but I try to create content. Sometimes they're images, sometimes they're videos, a lot of times they're text. It's a completely different thing than my day job. Like I'll take the learnings that I do at work, but then creating that sort of, creating it and packaging that in a version that's very accessible and interesting to people is a completely different skill set. There's a lot of empathy. There's a lot of thinking about what makes people laugh or interested or like click like. And to say that one person can't do both, I never really have bought that. It's just a list of questions and a frame of thinking when you're in that specific function that makes the big difference.
Yeah, and I'm sure that helps on the marketing ops side too, when you get to solve those types of problems for how to get one person to the next stage with messaging. So,
absolutely,
awesome.
Absolutely.
Next question we got from IUs. This is a popular question. What is your take on attribution analysis tools? Do you have a preferred platform or solution for marketing attribution analysis? Do you have like a homegrown solution? some of our clients and things like that use other, third-party tools like Visible or BrightFunnel or anything like that. What is your take?
Yeah, I think that, so there's a couple things. One is, we always have to remember that there's a difference between marketing contribution and marketing attribution. And marketing contribution is how much pipeline and revenue that marketing is sourcing or generating for the business.
Right.
And then attribution is which programs are you running, which channels are you running that deserve credit, right? For that contribution. So it's an important distinction. And it's not something that you're using to try to prove or validate marketing. That's something that's more on the contribution side.
Yeah.
Attribution is for better decision making. So you're trying to determine, hey, which one of our programs is most effective? How can we double down on the winners and improve the losers or cut the losers? I think that that's an important frame of mind when you're thinking about measurement in general and attribution.
Yeah.
I think that it definitely is an important thing to be done, but at a certain stage. And I think that a lot of companies actually try to implement it too early, where it doesn't have the impact or the return that it would definitely have. Like they'll do it before figuring out marketing contribution, which is more important actually in my mind. So
okay.
So let's say if you're early stage or a small company, I think that you can actually focus more on things like marketing contribution and engagement and really simple attribution, which is like either first touch or last touch. And that will actually get you, 75% of the way of where you want to go without having to spend money or hire people that know how to do multi-touch attribution really well.
Yeah.
And then but once you are at that stage, you absolutely have to have one of the two things that I mentioned to do multi-touch attribution really well, which is you either need a vendor, Visible, Full Circle. There's another one. There's a few other ones, right?
Right.
The way that we do it at Amazon is actually in-house. So.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a data warehouse, and all of our insights are then transferred to Tableau for visualization. So it's something where we actually hire the talent for that specific purpose. So you're going to need one of those two. I think that ideally in a perfect world, you had all the money that you could want. It would be someone. You would bring on your own data scientists and statisticians and engineers that would do this for you, because you could continually improve that.
Right.
So that's all the resources in the world. Then picking a third-party tool, I think you're going to have to go through vendor evaluation, but that's like the next best thing.
Yeah.
And I think they're making constant improvements. As the industry sort of evolves, I don't have too much of a take on it because I haven't used one in a while, but that's sort of how I kind of think about it.
Yeah. I love how you kind of set that stage of figure out marketing contribution first as the first milestone before even thinking about trying to do more complex attribution analysis. So really insightful. I think we got time for one more question from IUs. Again, as well as what are your thoughts around predictive lead and account scoring? Do you use any software to do so? Do you have your own solution? How do you prioritize leads to focus on? Any thoughts on that?
I think for most businesses you have to, because so like let's say, for sake of argument, for this exercise, you have a marketing automation platform, right? So with that, you have your basic lead scoring, and the only thing that you can kind of track are who the person is based on the data that they give you through like typically form fills. And then through interactions with your marketing campaigns, whether that's the website or an email campaign, or again, they attend an event or something. That's actually not very much data.
Right.
You're actually missing a lot of the things like intent and
Demographic, firmographic.
technographics. Yeah, yep,
Right.
all of that stuff. So you're missing all that stuff that you actually don't have. So by bringing in, and it's typically a third party, by bringing in that data to improve if a lead or account is qualified or ready to buy, I think that's definitely a must today. I think in the past, historically, you could get a pretty good mileage from really just behavioral scoring, to be honest. Meaning if they seem to be very engaged with your brand, they're ready to talk to you. So you get a lot of that way. But today, I think with the competition and with the sort of variety of competitors that any business has, I think layering on that data is important. I think we've tried various vendors with mediocre success with each of them. So I don't know if I can make a strong recommendation. But I will say that each time that we try to do apply these kinds of learnings, it's always been helpful for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we might have time for one last question, and it's from Thomas Martin. That's not the question I think I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask this one because it comes up and I think would be interesting to have your take. So from Thomas Martin, what KPIs should the marketing operations team be held accountable for, in your opinion?
So, okay, this is a good question. It's kind of a tough one. Yeah. Because marketing operations actually should be reporting on sort of two types of things. One is marketing's overall performance, right? So they're contributing to that. They're taking the data from the various systems and platforms, Map, CRM, social, website, all of that, aggregating it together and creating dashboards so that marketers can make better decisions and leaders can make better business decisions. So creating that and having marketing's own KPIs is different than what a team specifically is accountable for. And I think that we're still so early within marketing operations that actually people don't really know. And the way that we do it, for example, is we set goals each year that try to accomplish these things. So some things that I've been thinking about are, how many projects or products, or process improvements are being delivered by your team on a quarterly basis. And that's given that these things are going to be impactful things. So you have like goals that you have sort of aligned with all of your stakeholders. One of the things that we do, for example, is we build internal products for our marketers to use. So we need to be delivering either enhancements on those products, almost like a product management team, delivering or a development team, delivering improvements to those products or full out products out the door within a specific time frame. I like to measure it like that. I also like to measure it on productivity. So like let's say you're doing 50 campaigns a quarter, right? In a year from now, are you able to 2x that or 3x that given the growth? That's another important like metric to measure is if, with your growing needs and the growing goals of your organization, can you operationally support the scale, to keep up? And I think and with the same level of quality is an important one. So those are a couple of things that I kind of think about. There's a lot of other ones that are just start to get really in the weeds, like database health, managing your health of the database and all of that kind of stuff. But those are some of the ones that I think are important.
Yeah, love that. Very insightful. Thank you, Darrell, so much for taking the time to join us and answer all the society questions. Do you have anything going on that you'd like to plug here and promote?
Totally. So I've got, I appreciate Brian for the offer. Definitely love to connect with you on LinkedIn. So either follow me or connect with me. And then also I have a course that's launching in July
Awesome.
that we're like deep in the weeds right now of production for. So I'm like spending nights and weekends on it.
Awesome.
And you can find that by going to my like LinkedIn profile, and I mentioned it there. So anyone looking to learn, the basics of marketing operations and how to level up your skills, definitely join me. And thank you, Brian, for the opportunity to do that shameless plug there.
Yeah, no, not shameless at all. Super excited to check out that course when it comes out. I'll definitely be one of the early adopters. So
Yeah,
um,
nice. Yeah, cool.
yeah, thank you, Society, for asking all those awesome questions. Thank you, Darrell, for joining us today. And yeah, hopefully we catch everyone on the next Society AMAs. And thank you again, Darrell. That's it.
Thanks for having me. Okay, thank you.